Right now, one case has America completely captivated: the vanishing of Nancy Guthrie. Search her name, and you'll be buried under an avalanche of information. There are FBI briefings, endless loops of security footage, ransom demands, crypto trails, and DNA hits that lead nowhere. Everyone has a theory. Everyone feels certain they know the truth. For the past 3 weeks, I've been submerged in every shred of evidence I could find on this case. Court dockets, land deeds, search data, even old band pages. I've uncovered documents that made me question what I was seeing. The narrative being sold to the public is deceptively simple. An intruder chose an elderly victim, forced his way into her home at night, and abducted her. That's the official story from law enforcement. It's what the headlines scream. And at first glance, it almost makes sense. But just beneath that story, there's another one taking shape. It's built on timelines that don't align and relationships that raise uncomfortable questions. It's a pattern of coincidences so specific it starts to feel intentional. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to reveal what I've found. And the case you think you understand is about to be turned inside out. It begins with a figure walking in reverse. On January 23, 2026, a new video surfaced online. Late at night, a man moves backward up a driveway in the Catalina foothills. He isn't drunk or lost. He is moving with deliberate, measured steps, keeping his back perfectly square to the camera, his face hidden. To grasp the significance of this, you have to know how consumer security cameras function. They don't record constantly. They remain dormant, waiting for sensors to detect heat and movement. Once triggered, the entire system has to boot up. The lens focuses in the dark. The Wi-Fi connects to the server. That entire process creates a 1 to 2 second delay. If you approach head on, your face is captured in that first second, but by moving backward, the suspect exploits those crucial wake-up moments. The camera only captures the back of his hoodie. By the time it's fully active, his identity is already concealed. He is essentially hacking the camera's lag time with his body. This is not the work of some random prowler. This is someone who has studied the technology, someone who has practiced. And this is the detail that stopped me in my tracks. The backpack he's carrying in that January 23rd video is a dead ringer for the one at Nancy's house 9 days later. An Ozark Trail 25 lighter pack with identical reflective strips, the same gear, a different home, over 6 miles away. This can only be a dry run, and the location is critical. 6.5 miles from Nancy's. In criminal geography, this is a textbook buffer zone. It's distant enough to sever any obvious link if he's caught, but close enough to be a perfect environmental match. Both properties are nestled in the Catalina foothills. Both are isolated desert homes with long, exposed driveways. Both fall under the same dark sky laws, ensuring minimal light and maximum shadow. He wasn't testing his methods on a random target. He was scouting a simulator. And notice his reaction when a dog starts barking. He flees, but he never breaks his backward movement. He actively suppresses the natural instinct to turn toward danger. He'd rather risk a fall than expose his face for a single frame. A discipline like that doesn't come from fear. It comes from methodical planning. Now, contrast that man with the one on Nancy's porch just 9 days later. On January 23rd, the subject is jumpy, paranoid. But by February 1st, he's not moving in reverse. He's walking forward. He's composed. He strolls toward the front door with a chilling sense of ownership. And then he does something that I had to rewatch 4 times. He calmly reaches out and taps the camera lens twice. It's rhythmic, almost casual, like tapping a familiar piece of furniture. 9 days earlier, he was so terrified of the camera, he walked backward to trick it. Now, he's physically touching it, almost mocking it. So what changed in those 9 days? It's brutally simple. The January 23rd event was his final exam. He was the student, and when the police never showed up, he learned the most dangerous lesson a predator can. He learned he could be a ghost. When he arrived at Nancy's, he was no longer rehearsing. He was performing. Comment below with your verdict once you've seen the evidence. The details I'm sharing have divided everyone online. For some, the man at the center of this is just a grieving son-in-law. For others, he is the most dangerous figure in this entire case. By the end, you will have to decide. Let's begin. In Tucson, Arizona, a house sits just 4 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. 10-minute drive at 2 in the morning. Inside live Nancy's eldest daughter, Annie Guthrie, and her husband, Tomaso Chioni. Annie, a poet and jeweler, works for the University of Arizona's Poetry Center. In a 2013 interview, she praised her husband as her greatest teacher. A great manifester, whose lifestyle was poetry. Remember that term, a great manifester, because it will soon take on a much darker meaning. Tomaso Chioni is a 50-year-old science teacher who has taught AP biology at a Tucson charter school for over 15 years. Born in San Giovanni Valdarno, a small Tuscan town, he came to Arizona in 2006. He's a bassist in a band called Early Black, makes his own pasta, and forages for mushrooms. He also studies lizards. From all outward appearances, he is a quiet, ordinary man living an ordinary life. He is also the last person confirmed to have seen Nancy Guthrie alive. On January 31st, Nancy was at their house. It was an evening of dinner, games, and family. Now, this is the first detail you need to lock onto. Accounts of what happened next are deeply inconsistent. Some claim Tomaso drove Nancy home, seeing her inside by 9:50 p.m. Others say it was Annie. Still others insist they both went. The narrative changes depending on who tells it and when. In an investigation, where minutes count, not having a straight answer on who last saw Nancy is a monumental issue. It is the foundation of this case. At 1:47 a.m., Nancy's Nest camera was manually shut down. Using the 9:50 p.m. timeline, that creates a gap of nearly 4 hours. 4 hours is an eternity. It's more than enough time to get home, wait for the world to sleep, put on a disguise, and head back out. Park out of sight, approach the house, execute the objective, and slip back into bed before dawn. There is no public alibi for Tomaso during this time frame. The same is true for Annie. They live together. One's alibi is supplied by the other. Think about what that means. Let's discuss the porch, because the body language is what blows this case wide open. This was no stranger. Experts and former federal agents agree the suspect moves with the subconscious ease of someone who's been there countless times. He doesn't look for the camera. He walks right to it. He doesn't pause at the door. He knows the porch geography. The plant used to obscure the lens, the camera's precise spot. This is called ownership behavior. It's a psychological state where the offender feels they have a fundamental right to be there. He doesn't operate like a thief in a foreign space. He acts like a man in his own territory. That rhythmic tap on the lens isn't a calculated move. It's an unconscious habit. It's a gesture you make toward an object you encounter every day. Now, ask yourself this. Who else would have Nancy's home so deeply mapped in their mind they could move through it in total darkness? Who knew the camera locations? Who knew her Nest subscription was inactive? Who knew her schedule, her medications, her home's vulnerabilities? Tomaso Chioni ate at that house all the time. He ran errands for Nancy. He and his wife managed her property. He'd walked that path for nearly 20 years. If any human's muscle memory could produce that precise sequence of movements, it belongs to the man on that porch 4 hours prior. But this is where the investigation takes a turn I can't shake, because if Tomaso Chioni is a prime person of interest, he is also a walking contradiction. Let's examine the intruder's gear. A $22 ski mask bought in the Tucson desert. How many people buy ski masks there in January? A purchase like that is a red flag in any sales history. A $10 pack of nitrile gloves, a $20 Walmart backpack with reflective strips that blaze under infrared light, and a belly band holster strapped loosely over a heavy jacket worn completely wrong. That's not how a professional handles a weapon. A former Secret Service agent explained, the whole setup costs under $100. It's a portrait of pure amateurism. But does that picture match the man at the center of this storm? Tomaso Chioni is no vagrant. He's highly educated, an advanced placement biology teacher. A job like that demands immense organization, sharp critical thinking, and a deep grasp of cause and effect. It requires intelligence. It requires a methodical mind. His defenders insist on one thing: Tomaso is far too brilliant to be this foolish. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? Imagine for a moment a brilliant mind plotting a crime, determined to leave no trail. What if you're intelligent, a methodical teacher, planning a kidnapping? Your top priority is getting law enforcement to chase a ghost, anyone but you. So how do you pull that off? You invent a persona. You play a part. You intentionally purchase the shoddiest, most ill-fitting equipment you can find. You purposefully misuse the holster. The goal is to make FBI profilers build a profile of a drifter, a junkie, so they completely overlook the respected teacher with an advanced degree. There's a name for this strategy: calculated incompetence. And if that's what we're seeing, the implication is chilling, because it's succeeding. The very fact we're having this debate proves it. The ineptitude wasn't an error. It could be the most brilliant move in the entire scheme. And there's another detail in the gear that's been overlooked. The gloves. Black nitrile, not tactical leather, not surgical latex. Nitrile, you find these in labs, kitchens, and workshops. Now, ask yourself who handles nitrile gloves daily as a routine part of their profession. A biology teacher. Tomaso Chioni oversees AP biology labs. His students use them constantly. These gloves are standard issue in his own classroom. A box of these in his possession wouldn't raise a single red flag. It's normal. And that's precisely what makes it so sinister. Their common nature makes them utterly forgettable. The intruder also knew about the other Nest cameras on site. Authorities confirmed they're trying to pull data from other cameras, but Nancy never subscribed to a cloud service for those either. The perpetrator was aware of the complete camera system and knew none of it was recording to the cloud. That's not something you learn from a quick search online. That's insider knowledge gained from being in the house, maybe even from helping install the system, from hearing Nancy herself refuse to pay the monthly fees. The kind of knowledge a family member would have. Now, there's another link here, one that has been almost entirely ignored, and I need you to pay close attention. The timing is everything. In February 2020, 1 year, almost to the day, before Nancy vanished, Savannah Guthrie released a book. Inside, she wrote about a peculiar family ritual from her childhood. Each summer, her cousin Terry would stage what they called a kidnapping of Savannah and her sister Annie. He would get them before sunrise, load them into a car, and drive from Tucson toward Phoenix. On the road, the girls would call their mother Nancy and announce, "Mom, we've been kidnapped by Terry," and Nancy would play her part. She'd act surprised and promise a rescue in a few days. Let me repeat that. Savannah Guthrie wrote a book describing a kidnapping game played out of that very Tucson house, involving her sister Annie, with their mother Nancy participating over the phone. A year after that book was published, the game stopped being a game. I'm not suggesting a link. I am simply stating what is written in print, available for purchase by anyone for the past 2 years. You can draw your own conclusions. Now, let's look at the money. In any case like this, it's either the reason or a distraction. And here, the numbers paint a very clear picture. Nancy's home is worth around $1 million. 2 miles away, Annie and Tomaso's house is valued closer to $650,000. As a teacher, Tomaso's household income is nowhere near 7 figures. Savannah Guthrie, on the other hand, has an estimated net worth of $40 million, with a multi-million-dollar annual salary. The demand was for $6 million. That figure wasn't pulled from thin air. It was calculated. It was chosen by someone who knew the family's finances, who knew exactly what Savannah could pay and what amount would seem plausible. An unconfirmed document appeared online dated May 16, 2025. It shows Tomaso Chioni signing over power of attorney to his wife, Annie, giving her total control of his affairs. Now, legal experts correctly point out this is often standard procedure for closing on a property. A power of attorney filed in May 2025, 8 months before Nancy was gone. It aligns perfectly with the first Google searches for her home address. March 2025, an Arizona search for her home. May, Tomaso secures his legal affairs. June, another search. Then, in December, a search for her salary from Tucson. Was the power of attorney connected? We can't say for sure, but consider the spring and summer of 2025. While someone in Arizona looked up Nancy's home, Tomaso was putting his own house in order. If you were planning an operation that could end in your arrest or disappearance, handing asset control to your spouse isn't routine. It's preparation, and Annie was positioned to get everything. This brings us to Annie. The media largely ignored her, but the investigation certainly did not. Her vehicle was towed and impounded in connection with the case. Ashley Banfield reported this, citing a highly placed and respected law enforcement source. The sheriff claimed it was standard procedure. But think about what impounding implies. You don't seize a family member's car in a stranger abduction case. You seize a vehicle when you think it was used in a crime or contains forensic evidence. What was in that car? What were they hunting for? The public was never told. Investigators searched their home multiple times. They photographed every room. They pulled the security cameras from the property. And one detail is chilling. They inspected the septic tank. A news crew filmed them probing it with a long rod, peering inside with flashlights. You only search a septic tank when you're looking for something someone tried to destroy. After the first week, Annie and Tomaso both went completely dark. A local reporter on the scene noted Tomaso hadn't been seen for almost a full week. He was last caught on camera with Annie in a car, and then total silence, both of them, at the same time, and recall the shifting stories about who dropped Nancy off. Some said Tomaso, some said Annie, some said both. When the last person to see the victim is your focus, that inconsistency is everything. It signals one of two things: confusion or coordination, and investigators know the difference. Now, we must address something that has the online community on edge. Tomaso Chioni's inner circle. He's a bassist in a local band called Early Black. A bandmate, Dominic Evans, has a rap sheet: felony burglary, robbery, theft, and embezzlement. When Tomaso was named as a person of interest, internet sleuths immediately began digging into his social circle. Evans' name surfaced first. A SWAT team later raided a nearby location tied to the case. Think about what that criminal history means. Burglary and robbery are not petty crimes. They involve forcible entry and theft. If Tomaso needed someone who understood how to break into a home, someone experienced who wouldn't hesitate, he wouldn't have to search far. He'd just have to look at the man next to him at band practice. I want to be perfectly clear. There is no confirmed evidence connecting Dominic Evans to this case, but his proximity and criminal past matter, and his place in Tomaso's circle is critical because the sheriff has not ruled out an accomplice. The forensics seem to back that up. The FBI found two separate DNA profiles, one on a glove 2 meters from the house, the other inside the home. They are not a match. They don't match the family or anyone in the system. 2 DNA profiles, 2 locations, 2 people. That is not a theory. That is mathematics. One person left their genetic signature inside the house. A different person left theirs on a glove near an escape route. If 2 individuals were involved, the entire lone wolf theory crumbles, and the idea of a planned operation with an architect and an operative becomes terrifyingly plausible. The Backward Walker video from January 23rd was posted by an ordinary homeowner on the Ring Neighbors app. It's a social network for local security, where residents share suspicious activity. Package thieves are common, but in a calculated crime, the kidnapper is watching that app. He isn't just a ghost, he's a subscriber. A predator rehearsing 9 days out is obsessed. He was likely refreshing the neighborhood feed. He was waiting to see if he was noticed, testing his own invisibility. And when he saw the video but wasn't identified, it gave him something beyond luck. It gave him confirmation. Our own safety tech was turned into his feedback loop. He used the community's alert system to vet his disguise, and that validation is what made him walk forward, not back down. 9 days later, the ransom note hit the media, not the family. A professional negotiates in the dark. They never invite the press into the deal. But someone faking an outside threat, someone who wants the world to buy a story, they go public. Because every headline of a random attacker adds another layer of cover for the real perpetrator. The tipster who fed TMZ the ransom story used a peculiar phrase, the main individual. That choice of words implies a hierarchy, suggesting it was more than one person. It implies the source knew the operation had parts and knew about the Bitcoin ransom wallet. That crypto wallet has been completely dormant. 0 moves. The FBI even baited it with a small trap deposit. They are monitoring that wallet 24/7, waiting for someone to log in and check the balance. The moment it's accessed, their device will ping its IP address and location, but it remains untouched. That tells us something vital. A professional outfit would have laundered that money immediately. They'd know how to cash out anonymously. This person is paralyzed, knowing it's a trap. This is the profile of someone whose book, smart enough to set up a Bitcoin wallet, but lacks the street smarts to use it safely. A science teacher, perhaps. Someone who knows the theory, but lacks the criminal instinct to pull it off. Now, here's a detail that should unsettle everyone. The Today Show. With Savannah gone, it has shot back to #1 in the ratings. The show has now built a commanding lead over Good Morning America, especially with advertisers' target demographic of viewers aged 25 to 50. Savannah's nightmare is NBC's ratings gold. I am not suggesting the network is involved, but I am highlighting that the longer this story dominates, the more money flows. And the question of who profits from a continuing story is always worth asking, however uncomfortable the answer. Sources have told News Nation that Savannah is weighing a permanent departure from television. She reportedly believes her mother was targeted due to her fame and won't risk her family again. One network executive said there's no way Savannah is returning. Rumors already had her leaving in 2026. This kidnapping may have just moved up her exit date, but that detail connects to the conspiracy. If Savannah leaves her show, Her income shifts, her visibility drops, the family's financial world changes. And whoever engineered this crime had a precise understanding of those finances. They knew exactly what Savannah made. They Googled it right from Tucson. But to be fair, for all the coincidences tightening around Tomaso Chioni and Nancy Guthrie, there are facts that push back. The height discrepancy. An analyst studying photos of Tomaso claims he is significantly taller than the 5'9" to 5'10" range. If correct, Tomaso is not the man on that porch. But that doesn't clear him of planning it. It just clears him of executing it. If two people were involved, the mastermind and the muscle don't have to be the same person. Then there's the official clearance. On February 16th, Sheriff Nanos formally cleared the entire Guthrie family, stating they were cleared within days. He said they'd surrendered their phones, cars, and homes, telling the media to see them as victims, plain and simple. But here is what most people don't get about major investigations. Cleared does not mean exonerated. It means the current evidence won't support a charge. In high-profile cases, clearing the family publicly is a tactic. It takes the media pressure off. It gives investigators cover to operate. More importantly, it can make a guilty person feel safe. When law enforcement publicly clears you, the instinct is to exhale, to drop your defenses. You make a call you'd been avoiding, or check an account you dared not access before. Being cleared isn't an end, it's a tactic. The DNA inside NY's house wasn't from any family member. This is a critical detail. If Tomaso was there, he left no trace of his DNA behind. This means he was either incredibly meticulous, which fits a science teacher who knows forensics, or he simply wasn't in the room. That points to an accomplice, or it means the real killer's DNA is still an unsolved mystery. Then there's the stalker angle, a stranger fixated on Savannah Guthrie, targeting Nancy as a stand-in, a softer, more accessible path to the true focus of their deranged obsession. In this theory, the intruder's comfort in the house isn't familiarity, it's a profound delusion. He acted like he belonged there because, in his mind, he already did. The ransom notes sent to the press weren't for money. They were a desperate bid for the spotlight. The dormant Bitcoin account fits. The payment was never the point, but this theory has a major flaw. It can't account for the dry run 9 days prior. An impulsive obsessive doesn't run careful, strategic rehearsals. That's operational security. Nor does it explain the intimate knowledge of NY's camera system. How would a stranger know her account was inactive? And it doesn't explain why the FBI visited the son-in-law's home at least 5 times and searched his septic system, why they seized his wife's vehicle and confiscated their security cameras, or why they left with a paper bag of biological evidence. As Meghan Kelly observed, you only go back that many times when you think you missed something. She questioned why investigators would repeatedly interview neighbors, asking specifically about Annie and Tomaso, unless they were building a case against them. So what are we left with? A couple living just 4 miles away, the last known people to see the victim. A 4-hour gap in their timeline with no confirmed alibi. An eerie comfort level on the victim's porch. Deliberate sloppiness in the gear. Nitrile gloves, straight from a science teacher's supply cabinet. A power of attorney signed 8 months earlier. A friend with a rap sheet for felony burglary. A seized car. A septic tank pumped for evidence. A financial motive in the property. And a book on kidnapping games he published a year before it happened for real. All that and a federal agent carrying a paper bag from their home. On the other side, the official story, no suspects, family cleared. DNA that points elsewhere, and a significant height difference. Just the remote chance a stranger cased the home for months, only to have his master plan completely unravel. Right now, that paper bag is almost certainly sitting on a steel table in a forensics lab. Technicians are running comparisons between its contents and the DNA found in the glove and inside NY's home. Genealogical databases are mapping out complex family trees from even partial results. Each branch spider webs out, but eventually they all converge on a single name. And if that name connects to the people who were with Nancy hours before she vanished, then none of the strange details we've covered were coincidences at all. It was all part of a plan. The clumsy disguise, the cheap gear, the wrong holster, the glowing backpack. Every bit of it was theater, staged to make us look away from the very people holding the key. But if that name is a stranger's, then Tomaso Chioni is just what he seems to be, a quiet teacher from Tuscany whose life was ruined by a shadow of doubt, all for being the last one to say goodnight. And Nancy Guthrie is a poet who had her car and privacy torn apart because a public opinion convicted her before the science could. But the DNA doesn't listen to our theories. The DNA is immune to coincidences, body language analysis, legal documents, or fictional books about dark games. The DNA will tell a truth so absolute that no performance can hide from it. And that truth is closer than anyone thinks. But consider this before we close. The January 23rd rehearsal video did more than just reveal a second crime scene. It gave investigators a second timeline to tear apart. Until it was found, the entire case was balanced on a 4-hour window. A suspect only needed an alibi for the night of February 1st from 9:50 p.m. to 2 a.m. A sleeping spouse, a phone left charging. That was all it took to be in the clear. But the rules have just been rewritten. The FBI is no longer asking where you were when Nancy vanished. They're now asking, where were you on January 23rd at 2 a.m.? And that question should terrify the person responsible. Building an alibi for the night of the crime is one thing. You know the questions are coming. You plan your cover story as you plan the act itself. You leave your phone behind. Your car never leaves the driveway. You create a digital phantom. But January 23rd was a dry run. A random night a week prior, the suspect had no idea a camera was watching. He didn't know a dog would bark. Feeling invisible, he got careless. His personal phone was probably right there in his pocket. He likely drove his own car, registered in his own name. Why create a fake digital trail when you believe no one's watching? Now, the FBI is executing a tower dump. They are pulling all the data from towers within 6.5 miles of the home on January 23rd, looking for every device that pinged between 1 and 3 a.m. After that, they'll cross-reference it with devices near the home on February 1st, hunting for the one number that appears on both lists. If a phone belonging to anyone in their circle pings at the rehearsal site and then near the crime scene, there isn't a lawyer in the world who can explain that away. Faking an alibi for one specific night is difficult, but not impossible. But faking it for 2 random nights, 9 days apart, without knowing the first one even mattered, that's impossible. A mask can conceal a face. It cannot hide the signal pulsing from a pocket. And at this moment, that signal might just be the most powerful witness in this case. So, I'm turning this to you. You've seen the evidence, the coincidences, and the counter theories. Leave your theories in the comments below. I go through every single one. Is this the horrifying story of a family caught in a random nightmare? Or was the nightmare born from within the house itself? Nancy Guthrie has now been missing for 20 days. She has a pacemaker and requires her medication. Someone out there knows what transpired on the night of January 31st. The defining question is whether that person is a stranger in the shadows or someone who kissed her goodnight just hours before she was gone. The DNA results are on their way, and when they are released, we will be here to analyze what it all means. Subscribe and turn on all notifications.
The vanishing of Nancy Guthrie has evolved from a tragic disappearance into a complex forensic puzzle defined by chillingly precise patterns. Investigators are currently dissecting a significant lead, a dry run captured on January 23, where a suspect utilized a backward-walking technique to exploit the inherent lag time of consumer security cameras. This methodical approach, coupled with the use of a Walmart-exclusive Ozark Trail backpack and specific nitrile gloves standard in biology labs, has shifted focus toward the victim's inner circle, specifically her son-in-law, Tomaso Chioni. While official briefings previously cleared the family, the discovery of 2 non-matching DNA profiles, one inside the home and another on a discarded glove, suggests a coordinated operation rather than a random intrusion. As federal agents execute cellular tower dumps to cross-reference device pings between the rehearsal site and the crime scene, the investigation remains a high-stakes race against time. The core question persists. Was this a crime of opportunity by a sophisticated stranger, or a calculated performance orchestrated by those who knew the house best? Would you like me to create a detailed timeline of these events, or perhaps analyze the specific calculated incompetence theory mentioned in the text?